I saw Mike Warren in
He
the,
did. No, he did.
but I just spoke to him. He's logging on now.
Yeah, no, he's just responded. So
Okay.
I wonder why he wasn't in there. I'm quite sure. Sent it to him.
Yeah, if you look at the others invited to, I look there and I don't see his name. That's why I was worried. But it's not a problem. He said he'll join now.
Okay.
Okay.
Here, some people are coming in.
Xavier?
Niku's here. Nazir, Basil.
Okay. Let's give it a couple of minutes. If Mike said we'll be here. I sent Glenn something earlier and I sent Antoinette, but did they respond to the meeting?
Let me check.
Because Antoinette said she was going to come. I never got anything back from Glenn to say he's not coming.
There were quite a lot of people that said yes.
Exactly. That's what I'm worried about. But let's give it a couple of minutes. I know
Yes.
Terry won't be here. Terry's supposed to be here.
Hello, everybody.
Good
Hi.
day.
It's good hearing your guys' voices before the port meeting.
Don't worry. This is normal.
It wasn't for a long time, eh?
Exactly. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Basil. How's it?
Yeah, all right, man.
Good. Turn this camera off now. Sorry.
No, that's all
Didn't
right.
realize it was on.
We don't have a problem.
No, but as you can see, I do because I've got a bloody great bandage on my head. But anyway,
We've
Yeah.
got Jace is joining us.
good. Hello, Jace.
Hi, Jace. The others that
Hello?
responded, Vernon.
Daar's Antoinette, man. Daar's Antoinette.
Yeah, sorry, man. I was talking to you bad.
Ek het gedog ek hoor jou stem.
Vernon? Yes, someone.
Joubert.
Joubert is here.
Yeah, we'll wait a few minutes. Don't worry. So how's everybody in this wonderful, lovely weather of ours after all the rains and all that?
Well, it's still a bit cold, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's freezing cold, Mike. Believe you me.
No, I think I'd rather have stayed in the Eastern Cape. It's quite nice there.
No, listen. Sit in your car outside in the sun. It'll heat you up quick. You know, that's the old Sunday trick. After lunch, you sit in the car in the heat.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's all the traffic going by?
Well, then you can fall asleep also.
Yeah, the only trouble here is you can't watch the traffic going by. It'll all be standing still.
Yeah.
Will Glenn not join, Basil?
I'm trying to get hold of him quickly, Kirby.
Okay.
Are you joining? No. Your suggestion was on the first, and so we took it up. Okay. No, not a problem. Not a problem. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Glenn. Okay, so Glenn will join us in the next 10 minutes or so. But he suggests that we can go ahead and with the meeting. Hallo Nico, dis die eerste maal wat ek jou nou jou gesig sien.
How's it?
All right, man. All right.
It's Antoinette here. She got me into this.
She got you. Oh my gosh.
And then she ran away. No, she's here. She's here.
Yeah. Antoinette, worry wat iemand sê.
Basil, you said forward the invite. I'm just saying. I'm an executioner here.
Antoinette het vir my 'n privaat boodskap gestuur, hoor.
Daar's dit. Daar kyk. Daar hoor ek nou stryd van die hossesmeld soos hulle sê.
In die Pacific.
Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our weekly sessions again. It's been a while. Obviously, the port became fluid at that moment in time, and we decided we're not going to have the meeting, or perhaps we can resurrect it once every second week. It seems like we're going to have to do that again, following the reports that I sent out this morning, where the port was very fluid. They've only got 3 ships on berth, and I think by the end of today, they will probably have no ships on the berths because they will all be done and dusted. The next ships that we'll be looking at, and this is a concern for me, the next vessels in the lineup is only on the 3rd and the 4th. So we got the Mall Presence, no, the APL Houston first, and then the Mall Presence, and then from the 5th to the 7th we got vessels coming again. So that seems to be for me a bit of a concern, maybe overwhelmingly concerned, but nevertheless a concern, which raises a lot of questions because we haven't seen the stats for the meeting tomorrow, and if you saw my mail this morning to Antoinette and Mike and so on, you would see that I say that since there is so little to do in the harbor, they should be flying. And it will be interesting to see what the numbers are tomorrow. I would have said anything less than 16,000, 17,000 would be a disappointment for me. But enough about me. Let's get into the meeting, because I think more importantly, the trucking fraternity, more than anyone, has got a lot to say. And so I'll open the floor to any of the Jobe or Nico or Nazir. If any of you want to, and that doesn't obviously exclude Mike and Antoinette, of course, and JC. So the floor is open for you. Anyone?
Hi, excuse me, Jobe.
Yep.
As you have seen lately, Nico is more in the meetings on a Wednesday than me. I attend the daily meetings with the port sometimes. And I also think it's better. Nico used to go to the meetings on a Thursday long ago. And then I took over because he has to run a trucking company. I think he still does. I'm not sure. But anyway. And yeah, he looks like a farmer in that video we saw of him. I think he's sitting somewhere on a mealie farm somewhere. But
wys hier 'n boer soek 'n vrou.
Yeah, I think yeah. But anyway, but Nazir and Nico obviously on a daily basis, because they have their trucks going in and out of the port, have much more on the ground information. I normally get most of my information from them. So I'm still around and I'll be listening, and there's some other things that I'm aware of and not aware of, then I'll bring it up. But otherwise, Nico Nazir is 100% capable of representing the truckers. Thanks.
No, thanks, Jobe. Thanks for that. Just quickly, Kirby, Terry Gale said he won't make it today. He might not even make it tomorrow. because his staff is all sick, and he's running the show on his own. So, but he did send me 2 items, which obviously touches onto this meeting as well. He asked me to speak on not today, but tomorrow, and when the truckers meeting is going to take place, which is on the top of his agenda. And then obviously the other one is the quarterly meeting that is supposed to happen in this month. So those are the 2 items, which is on the top of his list that I need to speak on his behalf on. And of course, not just on his behalf, it's something that I've been nagging the port for 1.5 years now, to have the truckers meeting. And they keep saying it's there, but it's never there. So that's the 2 items. Mike, I see your mic is open. Do you want to say something? Mike?
Sorry, I'm being pushed out.
No, you're not being pushed out. You can speak if you want to. Okay, Nazir, Nico.
Yeah, I can't.
Okay, you want to speak? You want to say something? We can't hear you.
No, the line's gone dead, man.
I can hear you.
Who, me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
But who can you hear? Is that me you're talking to?
Yes, Mike, I can hear you.
Yeah, all right.
can
well,
all-
I
we
don't
can
know
hear
if
you,
anyone
Mike.
else can hear, but I did have a couple of
We
things.
can.
You can go ahead. You can talk now.
I'll try.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Just speak. It's fine. We can hear you.
Okay, let's come back. No, yes, I will. Thank you, Basil. And you can often get a very good feel about what's going on there, especially when it comes to breakdowns of equipment. Now, it certainly is looking better, as you said, this week, about volume. And as you say, the important thing there will be to see what kind of volume went through like that. Because I still see a fairly high incidence of reporting of equipment failure and other problems that we constantly experience in the port. So it's very easy to handle a lower volume if you're still not working at full capacity. And that's really what we need to know. And so it's not time to take the pressure off yet. Let's, as you say, let's see what the volumes were. And if they were the reasonable sort of number you'd expect, well done to them. But I still have big concerns about the available equipment. And I have big worries about them complaining about not enough use of the night shift. I think you all know my view on that is that if they run the port efficiently at 25 moves, I need a night shift. Anyway,
Yeah, Mike, that is exactly what Antoinette said in her mail to us last week anyway. So they don't have the capacity to run a night shift. So as far as we're concerned, if they are efficient during the day, they won't necessarily have to use the night shift. But anyway, that's Mike. Okay, thanks, Mike. So Nazir, Nico, JC, you can all come in, or Antoinette.
For the entries, yeah.
Go ahead, Nico. Go ahead.
On that point, Basil, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, you know. So with the port calling the shots and we not being able to call the shots, don't you think we must come to the party and try and strategize towards using the night shift? Or is this all a bluff from the port side? I don't know how you guys feel about it, but they do have a point, you know. They went 24 hours and industry never did, you know. We still, our clients still don't want to pack on weekends. They still don't want to pack after hours. And I hated the last week's meeting where they said, you know, it's the transporter. Now maybe they meant this in a broader spectrum, meaning the whole industry, but the transporter, the truckers are reliant on the clients, because I mean, if the clients tell us to load at 12 o'clock at night, and it is feasible, it's volumes all the time, consistently, then we will come to the party.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, point well taken. Jobe, you want to add?
Yeah, obviously Nico experiences a lot as well. I think they do sometimes night runs, even empties. So yes, the port's working, but I think every time somebody brings up night runs with the port, I normally want to throw my toys out of the cot, because we've been speaking about this for 2 years now. And clearly if a port guy says, why don't we use night shifts, then he's not informed, and he should not even ask that question anymore. So if they bring it up again, all we have to say, if the right people is not in a meeting, we cannot discuss it. It's like discussing if it's going to rain or not. Nobody knows, because if freight forwarders are not represented, specific freight forwarders that actually do shipping here in Cape Town, it's not in a meeting, and the depot is not in a meeting, it's a waste of time talking about it. So they're talking to the wrong people. So I'm not, if I'm ever in a meeting again, somebody says night shift, I'll just move on. Wrong people, wrong meeting. So it's a waste of time. We went through it so many times already. What we want to do from the transporters, we will do this. We actually worked with specific people and say we will do night runs. And we used to do night runs before the bookings. It was planned and it worked. But yeah, other than that, the actual customers are not on the call, then maybe we should try and get some get Woolworths. I can get Woolworths on the call, and Pep. I'll speak to the people I know there. And so they should become on that call.
Sorry to interject.
Yeah.
The
Why
boss,
not?
Woolworths is in actual fact on the call.
Who's the boss of Woolworths?
Not the boss. I mean, he's the manager there, the senior manager. Pillay. His name is Pillay. He's in the meeting.
Oh, he's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. But just to come to that point, before I recognize Nazir and Jay-Z, I recognize your hands. Just give me a moment quickly. So, okay, Jobe, we've said countless times. I don't know how many times we've said this before. We don't control the likes of SACD and any of the other depots. Okay? We don't have any control over them. So the
depot,
question...
hang on, before you go, the depot is a small part of it. The freight forwarders is a big part of it.
Yeah, but it's not
I can go with you, Bear, on this. You know,
guys, give me a chance. Give me a chance. You can't go with the freight forwarders, please. The freight forwarders is the ham in the sandwich. He only does the documentation. It's the importers. If the importers don't work during the night, whatever happens to the freight forwarder, he can't do anything. If the guy tells him, you can't deliver my container after 5 o'clock, he can't deliver it after 5 o'clock. And well, that's the problem.
It's the problem now. We better figure out between ourselves.
Tell that to the port. They don't give a damn. So everyone else, and I want to build a chain of command type of thing. You know, it starts. Okay, the port has gone 24 hours. Who's the next step in the line? It's the customer. Now I'm talking from a transporter point of view, so I don't know all the steps. But you know, the customer is the next one, which should fall in line with the port, and then the truckers, you know, we need the business, so we will fall in line with the customer.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go to Nazir first and then Jay-Z, and then I'm gonna come back to you, Nico, about that. I will chat to you around about something else. Go ahead.
Dazzle.
Yeah.
Just want to say that Glenn has joined us.
Yeah, that's fine. Hello, Glenn.
Hi, gentlemen and ladies.
We have the normal discussion about night runs. So let me give Nazir first and then Jay-Z. Nazir, over to you.
Thank you, Basil. Basil, I think I've mentioned this in last week's meeting. Musa's enterprises do not, perhaps as much as Coetzee Transport, do a lot of exports. So what I've noticed, and this gets mentioned in quite a bit of the meetings, that on first day stacks, they only get 2% of containers. The second day stack, they get so many percent. And in the third day stack, they get so many percent. We want to collect imports on the first available day.
Yeah.
And we are unable to.
Yes.
We try and collect imports on the second day, and we are unable to do so. You are even battling on the last free day, where you now have to constantly request for additional days because you just do not manage to get your containers out in time. But the emphasis are constantly being put on exports and exports. It's exports. It's the stacks not firming in or having sufficient time for when stacks are going to firm, or everything revolves around exports. It becomes quite frustrating. We don't deal with exports. Our business is mainly imports, and we need to understand why is it where you're saying that exports is basically impacting the terminal and causing them to not be efficient the way they want to because of how trucks are coming in there. That's bullshit. I'm sorry to put it like that. As transporters, previously, it wasn't the case. You can stack a container the last minute and you'll be assisted within, what, 30, 40 minutes? Now it's not the case. So it's just, for me, it becomes quite frustrating. It's just same shit, different day, unfortunately. And it's like Nico said, we transporters, we want the business. So we're going to bend over backwards to get the business. Unfortunately, if the customers say that, listen, I don't want you to collect the container over the weekend, collect your container on the last free day, which is the Monday. We are going to do that because we also don't want to incur the additional cost of sending in a truck, preloading over the weekend, and nobody covers these costs. So we see the chats. We see that the same delays that you experience on the morning shift, the same experience or delays you're experiencing on the afternoon shift, it is the exact same delays you experience in night shift. We see it on the group. People asking for cranes, people saying cranes are broken down, people saying the operators doesn't want to work. It happens on night shift as well. So why are we forcing the industry to move towards night shift when night shift isn't any better?
Yep.
So I don't know. Really, it's very, very frustrating to deal with the port. And like Nico said, I sat with Jakub in a meeting. Like he mentioned, we were there. Musas were there in a meeting with them because we needed to understand where we fit in as a transporter. And it was all about transporters not doing A, transporters not doing B, transporters not doing C. Everything gets played down to the poor transporter. They don't understand the challenges you experience at MSC, where you've got to stand on the Woodstock Bridge trying to turn in a container or collect an empty there. They don't care about those things, but they just more worried that they should stop beating around the bush and call the shots the way it is.
Yeah, that's
They
why
don't have the equipment, they don't have the staff to service the industry. That's their problem.
Yeah. That is why it's a very, very, very important, Nazir. That's what I mentioned earlier. We've got to push for that meeting with the truckers, where the truckers are going to have their day. I still firmly believe that has got to happen, and very soon. Okay, but before I say anything further, JC, your head must be very lame already. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Basil, whenever I listen to these things, I kind of want to see what the numbers are saying. So, if I may, I just want to throw up especially when I heard the guys talking about, arrivals and late evening shift and stuff like that. If I may, I just want to show some stats that we've got around behavior at the port, specifically the container terminal. Can I share that with you guys? It's off the Western Cape Container Terminal dashboard.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Can everyone see that?
It's coming up. There we go.
Okay, so what I've done is I've just focused from June until July, the last 2 months, and I focused specifically on containers. And what I've looked at here is this top graph here looks at the percentage of arrivals and departures as total arrivals and departures over that period. The blue lines are the bars are the terminal times, and that's per day over that period. And having been involved at industry level, understanding to some degree the frustrations that transporters experience, and also understand the challenges that receiving facilities experience as well. It's just interesting to see here that there isn't consistency in terms of arrivals of vehicles per day. So all I'm saying, I can't tell you what the cause is. All I'm saying is this is what the data is telling me, is that this, for any production environment, and if you want to call the port a production environment and every supply chain running into this part of a production environment, it is very, very hard when this is the kind of variability that you see to get anything operating smoothly. If we just look at it over a 24-hour cycle, so this is every hour of the day in this middle graph, you can see that apart from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning, and then it starts picking up at 4, from 5 o'clock through to midnight, you'll see that the arrivals, the percentage arrivals are pretty flat, which would seem to me, tell me that guys are using at least, are running up until midnight into the port, and the terminal times, you can see where they are high, and that could be coinciding with the shift changes. I'm not aware of what the shift changes are at the port, but you can definitely see over this period that at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's the highest time. And I'm guessing that there's some shift changes happening. If it's an 8-hour cycle, maybe we're hitting one around about the 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock mark, and those could be coinciding with shift changes. But I like to kind of look at this from what are the numbers telling us, because from a broader perspective. And so I thought I'd just share that with you guys, because when I was looking at this data somewhere else, I noticed distinct kind of dips from other areas around weekends, for example. But I'll leave that as that. Maybe some questions from people with respect to this, or comments they'd like to offer.
Okay, thanks, JC. Anybody want to ask JC a question?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot to be discussed, but can we just take Hubert's hand, and then I think we need to come back to JC's point and to Nazir's point, because I think there's a whole bunch of stuff we need to unpack. I just think, Hubert's been saying this for months. He's been telling us that we have to distinguish between the import and the export side. So I'd really like to hear what Hubert says. And after that, Basil, if I may have a turn.
No, of course. We give Hubert, Glenn, and then we can go back to Nazir and Nico. Go ahead, Hubert.
Yeah. Okay. Firstly, on the truckers meeting, that was originally organized by Chepo, and then he's now left. So it's a TNPA function, and they agreed they would do it. And it's going to be, I don't really know what will happen in that meeting, but let's do it anyway. Then when it comes to night shift and all these graphs, there's there's only one reason that we're not working at night, and that's because of not the port, the what do you call it, the customers. If they want to work, we will work. And like Nazir will say, don't expect that there's going to be any new things going to jump out. They will still have crane breakage and delays on the port. The only reason the port goes for it every time they see it, because that's the only thing they can say. Because if you squeeze them every time, why is day shift so bad, or morning, afternoon? The only thing they can say, I mean, you have to be adults here. If that is put in front of you, the only defense they got is use night shift. And that's what they will keep on saying it. And that's why I say it's a pointless exercise, it's a pointless discussion with the wrong people in the meeting. So, and the reason why this graph goes up and down like that is breakdowns and whatever else. Certain time of the day, the port's going fine, the rest of the day, breakdowns. So it's very difficult to get a flat response. You'll never get a flat response. So, and then import, export, I mean, even Antoinette can say it. We have to really look at it, and then also empties, how they move through this port. If you, and it's good that Nazir is that mainly doing imports, and I know Nico does a bit of export, but there's also other guys we should get in that purely do exports to see the different frustrations they have. It's completely different, but they all get thrown into the same pot and not serviced simultaneously. And it seems like exporters gets favored above importers. And I don't understand why. Obviously, on the reefer side, it's a different story, but there's also a lot of GPs coming in the export side. So, but yeah, night shift is, I think it's a waste of time to debate it with the port, unless we as the industry can sort out who's now really in charge. If it's not a freight forwarder, it's not a trucker, who actually decides he wants to run at night time or not? But that we have to decide. And the depots are a problem, but not the biggest problem. But that only comes in if you're talking about export or import again. The depots becomes more important and less important for night shift. But yeah, but before we go further on night shifts and how we want to do it, I think the industry must have their own meeting and decide who's really in charge here and are they willing to do it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Zubair. Before I give you a chance, Glenn. Yeah, look, I mean, we've been speaking about this issue now for the past year, 2 years almost. And we're not getting anywhere. We're not winning. I've investigated, Terry's investigated, Glenn has investigated, and yourself, you've investigated. And we're not winning anyway. And Mike as well. Mike will tell you, and I will tell you. If you got a guy in Atlantis and he's not going to open his whole entire work space just for a container to be driven from Cape Town to him, and then the container goes back and then the depot is closed because you can't turn in the container. So, I mean, is it worth the while? Everybody, and I sympathize with Nazir and Nico and with you, Zubair, because it costs money for a container to stand on a trailer overnight. But that's just part of it, as you said, Nico. It's I mean, Zubair, it's a much bigger problem than what you think it is. So, okay, let's go to Glenn, and then we can go to Nazir, and then Nico again. Okay, Glenn, the floor is yours.
Alex, yeah, no, I mean, I feel the pain. I don't have a truck, but every WhatsApp message that comes through is like cuts. So I think we have learned a lot, and I think, you know, what Zubair has been doing with the information and the tracking devices has been incredibly helpful. So just to begin, I think what Jace showed us there on the dashboard is also incredibly helpful. It helps us go a level down on the data. If I put the transporter study next to it, and I've had to take that report back to the service providers to fix a few things, so we'll be releasing the update very soon, and I'm hoping that those findings will find their way into the agenda of the transporters meeting. But essentially what that says is that there's no point in trying to improve the truck booking system if we don't improve on the RTG. So the choke point is the RTG. Having said that, there is at the moment still a bit of a variation in the truck turnaround time in morning and afternoon shift relative to night shift. So the only bit of window that the terminal is trying to push, and exactly like Zubair says, I agree 100% with him, that's their only defense at the moment to try and cover up for the weakness on the RTGs, is to say use the night shift. There is a little opportunity there to equalize on the truck turnaround times. So it would seem to me the most logical thing, and having spoken with many of the other agencies in the logistics chain, is that if we could isolate batches of cargo, let's say a whole batch of motorcar parts that MEC or Maersk has to move either for BMW or for whoever, and there's a batch of the cutoff line at the bottom is about 50 containers. If we are able to isolate a batch of containers for a particular shipping line for a particular customer, and we can manage evacuation from the port, so let's just talk imports at this stage, on a batch by batch basis for those particular agencies in the logistics chain, so that depots must be open, both on the customer side and on the shipping line side, which there seems to be would be an incentive. And if the transporters who service those particular customers are then willing to work a night shift, and it will be occasional, it won't be every night, and we can successfully execute on batches like that and gradually begin to institutionalize night shift work, and it's initially going to be erratic, exactly like Jace showed us. And then by that time, hopefully, and which is, I think, the point that must be prioritized on our agendas for our Wednesday morning meetings, until we get to the situation where we deal with that critical constraint of the RTGs and lift that constraint so that there's no longer such incredible pressure or deflection, shall I call it, to force us to the night shift. And we can get to an ideal situation where morning and afternoon is trucks and night shift is waterside. So I think let me stop there, but that is roughly how I would see a win-win outcome for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. I think that's a bit long, a long way to go for that. I must admit. But let's hear from Nazir and then Nico again. Thank you. Before we can come back to Glenn.
So just Basil, obviously on that, JC, on the averages and everything that that was made mention of. For us doing exports or imports, sorry, it's being dictated to us when containers are being released. This was never the case, because you would find when a vessel discharged, the moment the container came off, you would have access to the container, and it worked well until things started changing and containers are all being held and all being released at the same time. And then there's no communication on the day where they've mentioned containers would be released, and you come there and then the container is main working area. So it does become a challenge for you, because your planning all goes around the bookings, your equipment availability, etc. And the moment you get to the port and you are told main working area, you are basically screwed, because the lines are long. They don't allow you to speak to the office quick enough to get an alternative number. And you can't just give an alternative number, because you've got to basically check what the location is of the container that is being deemed main working area. So I think the graphs that we are given here, we are going to find that there is going to be a bit of a spike when containers are being released. But then if a container is being held off and it's working, then no trucks would call the terminal. So therefore, I think we need to try and get back to containers being released when the container is discharged. For an example, this Hanover Express that was working over the weekend. So we had a lot of containers that was at 571 hot boxed and everything, but you were unable to make bookings for containers to be collected the Saturday because they haven't updated the system. And I think, Nico, you would agree with me, Brandel made a comment in the group to say, you are only able to make appointments when the vessel has completed the discharge. So why are we making the effort to get things block stacked, to get it hot boxed by the shipping line, but then you are unable to make the bookings to collect these containers? So it therefore becomes quite challenging. We are doing everything in our power as transporters to assist the port. We want to work with them, but they are making it just more and more difficult. It's unbearable, honestly. And the more we sit in those meetings, it becomes quite frustrating, because everything is just about them. They don't want to see reason. They don't want to take blame. They are trying to just sweep everything under the carpet. Honestly, Basil, I'm telling you, it takes very, very, very little for any transporter at this given time to not be pushed over the edge and say something that's going to get himself into trouble.
Thanks, Nazir. I know I can hear you in your voice, the passion that you have. But let's go to Nico and then back to Jace. Okay, Nico?
Basil, one of the things that Nazir also mentioned, how do we actually differentiate between, the proof and the bluff, of what the port is telling us, because they're making us feel guilty that we not making use of the night runs as such. So that's one of the things, just, put it aside for where it belongs. Next is obviously, the bookings, we shouldn't have problems because the booking system dictates that only 30 trucks are allowed per hour. So we shouldn't have congestion. Then to get on to the other things here, to call the port's bluff, on this, that they took the first step to go 24 hours. I believe, to call them bluff, I don't know if it's worth it, but it started with the port, so they went 24 hours. So the next step would be, the clients, because the transporter reacts to what the client's needs are. So I don't know if there's some of the bigger clients who can afford or who can come to the party to do the 24 hours or the after hours stacking. And whether this exercise is even worth it, that's another question. At the same time, I do agree with, and I think the previous meeting is that things just doesn't seem to get anywhere. And one thing, I don't know if you agree with me, so that's another point, things are not moving forward at all. The other thing is, I don't know if you noticed that the port's stack openings seems to be always at crazy hours and at crazy dates. Why do they open a stack on a Friday at 6 o'clock and close it on a Sunday at 6 o'clock, for instance? So it feels like they're purposely trying to force the industry to follow their way of a 24-hour, stacking. And so maybe that's something, because that our clients now want us to pack on a Friday and keep the boxes on the truck. Still, the stack opens at 1800 that Friday evening, because that's when the stack opens, because the client doesn't want to work on the Saturday. And we could use that truck in the meantime for other work, so they are causing us to have a less productive and financial implications on that, because now you can only do one box per day if you load it the morning at 8 o'clock and you have to wait till 6 o'clock the Friday evening to stack it.
Yeah.
And then one thing that, and I bring this back to the days of Oscar, who contacted me, because I think the only way to, if it's even worth it, to give a 24-hour smooth entry, feed the port, it's not going to happen at the port. We probably need an interim area, interim port, interim depot, where truckers will drop their containers, and from there it gets spread out throughout the quiet periods. So the problem is with this, who's going to fit the bill on this, if you understand what I'm saying with this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nico,
a buffer area, if I can call it that.
Thanks, Nico. Remember, I said to you, this is not Singapore, where Singapore has a staging area. Yeah. Singapore has a staging area about 4 kilometers away from the terminal, but it's all interlinked. We unfortunately don't have that.
So basically, we can just round it off, from the trucker side, if the industry, if our clients don't come to the party regarding the 24-hour business, then I don't know, then the port might stern up and they might close the port at 10 o'clock at night again. Thank you.
Thanks, Nico. Your comments are well noted. Jay-Z, you're up.
Yeah, Basil. So just to reflect on what Nazir was saying, we've got quite a bit of history here, not particularly on this one. So if Nazir could give us, you made a comment about things started to change where you couldn't get a container as soon as it was available. If one can give us an idea of when that happened, I just extended this by another month. But if one could give us an idea of when that started happening, then we can mark off those kind of events, because what you see here in these graphs is a response to an action. And that action could be a new process. It could be, a new decision being made. And it's to kind of like, it'd be interesting from our part and to substantiate what you're saying. It's not that I don't believe what you're saying. I'd like to answer your question in that, what did it look like when it was previously? Was this more flat, or did we still have these big peaks or not? So that's a question I've just got in my own head. As I listen to the port moving to 24/7 operation, and the questions around that, and has it been taken up? This graph here in the middle over the last 3 months says that port vehicle arrivals from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning drop off tremendously. And so one could argue that it's not being taken up, but there might be very good reason for it not being taken up, because, for example, between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning over these last 3 months, you could be the median time that you sit there is like 130 minutes. No one wants to sit for 2 hours. So that's so I think that's kind of like answering the question posed, or having a reflection on that. And I think that to speak to one of the other points is that one must just remember the data that we have here is independent of the port, and it's an anonymous set of heavy motor vehicles moving in and out of the port, and that is how we collate this. So that's to give you a perspective if anyone's not been exposed to this before. Thanks, Basil.
Yeah, thanks, JC. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I can't seem to remember when that started, because I know
it started with the booking system.
Yeah, no, it must have been before that.
No, stacks were available partly when a booking system, the system says the stack has to be completed, and then they will make it available for you to book it. That's it.
Are you sure, Jabir? Because I thought it was before that already. Because don't forget, they automatically switched to a 2-berth. And I mean, I don't know why that happened anyway. That happened way before the booking system.
Well, that's what you're talking about, trucks or ships now.
Yeah, perhaps we should park this for another day. Otherwise, this can be a conversation on its own. I think you're both right. And remember in Oscar's days when the issue of the man working area became so critical, and that was exactly when the RTG started breaking down. So Nazir, you can correct us if we're wrong, but I think you're referring to a time like before 2019 when it was smoother to get in and out. But Basil, I don't want to tell you what to do as chair. It's just that it's 10 to 4, and this can become a conversation on its own.
Yeah.
I want to just get Jay, if it's okay with you, if we take Hubert's hand, and then perhaps I just want to perhaps make a suggestion to wrap up everything that's been said.
No problem. This is an open meeting, Glenn, and as I said to you in the beginning of the meeting, there's not much I could have said otherwise, because the port is fluid at the moment. And I will repeat what I said earlier. The port is fluid at the moment. I'm concerned because, first of all, the next vessel due is only in 3 days' time. And then thereafter, a few on the 4th. So that's a concern for me. All right. So is that as a result of what's happened in the port? Is the shipping lines actually boycotting them, or what? Something to that effect? I don't know. But for me, if I don't see good numbers tomorrow, that is a concern, because they should be flying. They shouldn't have any problems now that they don't have any ships to work. So That's it. That is from our side, Glenn. The other part of this whole issue was obviously through the transporters, which is what they're raising here. But you can go ahead, Glenn. Thanks.
Okay.
Your bear's hand?
Yeah. Okay, so I think we have to distinguish very clearly. I don't know why you say the port is fluent. The trucks are, you can ask them to leave. They're asking already now. They're standing there 2 hours, 3 hours. So the port's not fluent. And maybe from a shipping point of view, it's fluent. From a trucking point of view, it's as bad as another way.
It's not fluent.
It's not fluid. So I don't know, we're talking two different stories. So from a trucker's point of view, we couldn't care less about vessels or moving or not, as long as there's containers. To go back to Glenn's initial idea of how to do it, we have to understand when a ship comes in and they offload for export now, for imports now, they've built a stack and you get a stack list. And maybe you guys are not aware, but if truckers go in and they make that whole stack available when it's available to book, it doesn't mean if you make your booking for your container at 8 o'clock in the morning and you get there that your container's on top. It's anywhere in that stack. They shuffle and dig and whatever else to get you. There's no sequence even. So now if like Glenn was saying, let's pick like say the motor transport. If there's a stack of 50 or 100 containers, 50 of them might be for the auto industry, but they're all over in that stack. There's no organization in that stack. It's the way they came off the ship and then they just build a stack. And that is also that you might not realize why if they open the bookings for 50 trucks to come in because that stack is available. By the time you get to that stack, if the RTG is working, everybody's working, they still have to dig for your container. And that's also done. So there's a lot of ways we can help them to fix it, but they're not interested. And and then the night shift, I mean, unless we can sort it out on the private side industry. Yeah.
On the way the port places the boxes from the vessel, you have spoken about this, whether that might help to make things more fluid, as you guys mentioned, is that, you know, the top layer is easily accessible to the RTGs, but as soon as the truck comes in and these boxes stacked at the bottom, that RTG is such a slow moving machine that he needs to go through 4 layers of boxes and put them aside to get to the bottom box. So, if you can picture what we are saying.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think, Basil, the suggestion, just following from what Hubert and Nico were saying, and exactly to Jace's point, should we not consider an approach where we focus on integrated cargo planning? So it's probably going to be project management intensive, but if we work with this dashboard we've got and we can find someone, and we'll have to put a name to that someone pretty soon, and preferably someone who's paid from public funds and not from any company's pocket, that person puts transactions together, say evacuating MSC empties as a batch, and then evacuating Maersk empties as a batch, and then evacuating BMW parts from Maersk as a batch. So as that batch comes off the vessel, you would already, whoever this project manager person is, would already have arranged with the chief planner in the terminal and with that shipping line and with the depot that has to receive that box, that those all go into a stack together, so that it doesn't matter which one is at the top. The reach stacker, if it's an empty, or the RTG, just takes it first come first serve, loads the trucks because they're all taking from this batch to the same depot, and we start working batch by batch, get those bulks out so that when we get to morning shift and to afternoon shift, at least that cargo's out the way. You've got less double handling on other stuff. And as we gain experience with that, it becomes more and more institutionalized so that we smooth into the night shift. So it's just going to take a bit of effort from someone who has to either get PPECB together with the terminal planner, with the shipping planner, with the depot planner per transaction. I'm calling it transactions just so that you isolate it per shipping line, and that as you get momentum on that, it becomes less project management intensive, but that the shipping, I mean, the container terminal planner is part of that before the transaction, so they know to put all those boxes in the same spot. So, colleagues, that's the suggestion.
Okay, just before I go to Nico. So, Glenn, I like what you're saying, and it stems from what you said earlier. So let's wait until we have this quarterly meeting and we make that suggestion there. Does that make a sense now?
Yeah.
Because that can only be the only place that you can have a chat like this.
No, you're speaking to Nazir here. I'm calling from a company called...
You want to just mute yourself, Nazir?
I'm calling in conjunction with an incident in the terminal where one of your trucks...
Kirby can... okay, there we go. All right. Thanks, Kirby. So Glenn, the only place that we can have this conversation, what you've just spoken about and earlier, is at the quarterly meeting, because that is where Phyllis and all those top people will be sitting, and that suggestion must be put forward there. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think TNPA is not as much part of it, except for that point that Hubert keeps asking them about. Why haven't they integrated the port, the outside gate, with the TBS yet? So that point, I think, is critical to come onto our agenda. But then going forward with this suggestion, I think our quarterly meeting is one of them, but I do believe we need to start, if there's agreement, if there's consensus here, we need to sowing the seed at every engagement we go. And if you guys give me more or less a nod, I will start sowing the seed with the shipping lines as well, because we have some engagements with them, so that we begin to develop a consensus rather than rigidly just coming from waiting for the quarterly meeting. I think once we get to the quarterly meeting, we should ideally already have whet some appetite in the different formations.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But just coming back to the quarterly meeting, all right? Nothing stops us from actually getting Wandisa in that meeting, right? Because I know it's a TNPA meeting, but nothing will stop us if we can get the CE of the terminal there. If that's also part of the function.
Absolutely, but I think what we've been saying, and we haven't had much luck, is we've been asking that, remember it's Andiswa, not Wandisa.
Yeah.
We've been asking that Andiswa joins our meetings at least once a quarter. But be that as it may, I think good negotiation practice will suggest that we have this chat with Andiswa before the time.
Yeah.
And so that when she comes into that meeting, she must be prepared for that discussion.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Okay, so I'll give Nico...
Let me quickly roll with this. I don't want to make things more difficult. But what some of the guys were talking about, the top layer of the stacks and so on, because being predominant on the empty side of things, guys, just quiet down. We actually are getting very good communication from the port. You know, Lynn and the likes of Benita will call us and ask us, Nico, please start at block C9 because we have more equipment there. Or Nico, please start there because, or don't start there because there's a ship working there. So I think communication might still be the key to maybe all of this. And what I'm probably trying to say is that the port is not so closed up. Whether, you know, it's just they still have good personnel with the likes of Lynn and Benita in guiding us where to start with the empties, and we work with them so that we don't go and block wherever we should not be, wherever we think we should load. But we see the boxes, but that might not be the best spot. So that's why they actually call us, and we dearly appreciate it. And that might be the same that goes with the top level of boxes and maybe everything else. That so basically what I want to say is that the people at the port do try. I'm not saying the management or whoever's at the top, but they do try to accommodate us. So there is hope.
Okay, so Nico, Kirby, is it your internet that's wanting to bomb you out or what?
Now I have my ops team here. They still
And
try
not
to
you,
keep my trucks
talking
out of
about
the port.
Kirby. Okay. Let's wrap up. Okay, so tomorrow morning's meeting, I know Kirby is going to send some minutes out later this evening or first thing tomorrow morning. So let's just wrap up. Okay, so Glenn, you will start putting the seeds out for what you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
That's one. We will again look at see what the stats will look like tomorrow because we haven't got them. So I can't see what the GCH or the SWH is, but I will tackle that. And then, of course, it's obviously the transporters, which is the priority here. And I know, Antoinette, you didn't say much, but you note that you wrote there that it took your guys 9 hours to get your container, speaks volumes to what this whole conversation was, if I'm correct. So let's leave it at that. And then let's formulate this, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow morning, and then we can come back and discuss it again. Is that all right?
Cool.
Okay.
Basil, can you just stay behind because I missed out a part when my internet was dropping.
That's fine. That's not a problem, Kirby. So no, that's fine, Quips. It's all right.
And Kirby, you're welcome to send me a draft of your notes to comment on or edit before you want to release it. It's fine.
It's just that I missed part of it. I did do a subscribe and record. I should have told you, but I also have I had something planned for tonight, so I really just because it was such an important discussion, I'd like to put the notes together, and that's why I just wanted to check something with Basil. Because I missed out something.
No problem. And then if the rest of the group agrees, you can just send the notes to Basil and myself for a rough edit before you circulate.
Okay.
All
cool.
Right. Thank you so much.
So, thanks everybody. I really appreciate your major contributions, and then we'll see what happens from the minutes, and then obviously the discussion points for tomorrow. And then we can formulate the meeting again. Is that all right?
Cool.
Okay, so I'll close the meeting then. I'll stay on QB, don't worry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for
Thank you, Basil. I hear everything, I just hope that it somewhere will go forward. Glenn is still in the meeting, so I'm wondering who recaps all the points that we minutes this meeting and summarizes all there's been a crazy throw around of ideas. So hopefully Glenn will capture it and try to summarize it.
Kirby,
Basil and Glenn
is our secretary, and she records the meeting, and then we send a note out tomorrow or late tonight or tomorrow morning of the items we talk about in tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, that's fantastic. As long as
Nico, I just need your email address so I can invite you in future.
And Nico, you just stick with the trucks. We need the big oakies like you to evacuate the terminal at night. Basil and Kirby and I will make sure the notes are out.
Thanks, Nico.
Thank you for the motivation.
Thank you, Nazir.
You're always the positive.
Thank you, Nazir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jace.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for attending. Glenn, you want to stay on with me and Kirby?
Okay, sure.
So, Basil, I did capture the main action points, which Terry also raised, which was when will the tracking meeting take place in the quarterly meeting, and then Mike said we actually need to see the volumes really. There's still lots of equipment issues, and then they mentioned the night shift, that there's not really either an appetite for night shift from clients, and that the port always uses the night shift to blame. And if
As
you
an
ask them,
excuse, as an
yeah,
excuse.
as an excuse. But that also what came out is that they're not really open with the communication. They're always defensive. And really what we need, if we want to make this a success, is to be open with communication, even if it struggles, so that we can help with solutions. Nico also said, if the private sector is willing to use night shift, they will use it because they want to please the clients or have the business. Hubert said they can't discuss it if the freight forwarders and the depots don't come to the meeting with the transporters, and if they do, they'll come to the party. Musas then raised a point to say that they focused more on imports, and then he made some points about stack 1 and stack 2, which are very low percentage, which I'll try and get on the transcription. He also said that the transporters are blamed for everything, but that what's really at the crux of the port is they don't have the equipment and the staff. Basil again said he believes the truckers meeting must happen. Hubert said that he showed us the dashboard, and again said that the customers don't want to work at night. Glenn again said we must improve the RTGs, which is a choke point, and had an idea that if we isolate batches of cargo, maybe that can work. And that was discussed later on to say, well, if it's in a stack, then it's difficult to find your container in that stack. And then just a little bit later, you spoke about that. Nazir said that they dictate to us when the container is released, that the containers are being held with no communications, and really the containers must be released when it's discharged. I see Nico's hand is up.
Old hand. I'm sorry, old hand.
Nico wanted to know what is proof and what is bluff. They're not open. And he also mentioned the crazy open times of the port stack on Friday afternoons, which causes a lot of problems, financial productivity and logistics. It's a kind of a crazy slot Friday afternoon. And that in general, there's no progress. Whenever you try and take something up, it doesn't seem to be progressing. Nico spoke again about having a possible interim buffer area, but there's no, then somebody needs to pay for it. That's what you mentioned about Singapore. It's expensive to have such a piece of land. And then I lost something where Sylvia JC said we need to know when they decide. When did they decide to start the booking systems? And then I lost something, and someone said the shippers build a stack, then you must find your container in there, and they're not interested in helping us. So I missed out a whole thing about something that Glenn said he wants to take up. He wants to do something like a task team where someone can be paid to do something. That was a quick summary. You said we need someone in there, almost like a project manager.
Okay.
So
just let Glenn explain what he was trying to say there quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kobe, I think the alternative is I will insert that part in your notes. So it's essentially about doing exactly what Nico suggested, and so we're calling the bluff. We are saying then if you want us to come in at night shift, then let's put a transaction together, and we start with a sequence of big okies: a big transporter, a big importer, a big shipping line, and obviously the terminal planner. So the idea is we put a batch together that's easily evacuatable at night shift. But I will draft that part, and I don't think Nico realizes it, but he's going to be a main manner in that configuration of getting this going. I'm just not sure.
Let me just Glenn, while you're on the point of this, We
Kobe, you should
collaborated.
have seen the size of Niku's arms when I first met him. He's a man who can pack a punch. So he's going to have to load containers at the rate of 12 an hour and get them out of that
With my
terminal.
hands.
Niku, you've got 30
but-
seconds because we have
Yeah,
to get
30
off
seconds
this
quickly.
call.
Yes.
Ben, I'm not the statements I make. I'm not putting it lightly. You know, I've been talking to the likes of Inex. I've been talking to Container Domestic. I've been talking to Chiefs Transport.
Yes.
So if push comes to shove, we're sitting with a collaboration of 100 plus trucks. You know,
Hallelujah.
yeah. So if they want to call our bluff, you know,
Yeah, I think we've got something that
we
can
well
work here, Basil.
it.
Yeah,
We
I
just
agree
need
with
to
you.
find that person who
Yeah.
gets paid somewhere and gets paid enough to put all this together.
Doesn't
And
it
once we
s-
get momentum, I think Kobe gets paid the most. So I think she should help us put this together. Basil, I'm going to have to
No.
run, but I'm
Now we're
willing.
going to run now. We're going to run.
Whenever
We can
whenever
run.
Kobe has drafted the stuff, even if it's
Yes.
tomorrow, I'm happy to sit in
Okay.
and edit a bit, and then we'll give
Yeah.
it to you, Basil, for the
the thing
final
is,
edit.
It's just that I wanted to get this right. Do you need this for the meeting at 8 o'clock tomorrow?
No,
Because
no, we
that's
don't.
The meeting is
yeah.
tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Koos.
Okay, but still, it's because there's a bit more than what will be discussed at the meeting.
Yeah.
There's kind of a strategy here.
No, we know what to drive for tomorrow.
and
Thank you, Kobe. Don't
Okay.
be
Yeah.
too anxious about it.
Okay.
Yes,
right.
I have to go out somewhere tonight, and my car is in for a service tomorrow. So, but when I come back, I've actually got it at the top of my fingertip, so I'm just going to type
Kobe,
it.
you have it
or-
all well done. So I also have to go.
Okay.
So,
all right.
so cheers, guys. Thanks for listening.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn.
Craziness.
Cool.
And
No,
Thanks,
fine.
Nico. Kobe, as long as you enjoy the evening and come home safely.
Yeah, that's the main
thank
thing.
you. Thank you,
Anyway,
Glenn.
thanks, Glenn, Nico, Kobe.
Thanks, Nico. Bye, Basil.
Cheers,
Okay,
guys.
bye.
Just bye.